Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Justin Birnbaum, SportsMoney reporter. Justin, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Brittany.
As you know, baseball season is upon us, and according to your reporting, it's a very good time to be Shohei Otani. What can you tell us?
That it is, because Shohei Otani is now the highest paid player in baseball with projected total earnings of $65 million. He'll earn $30 million in his playing salary this year and another $35 million off the field in endorsements, which, for a baseball player, for an athlete endorser in general, is just an incredible figure.
So let's break this down. How much of these earnings are based on sheer talent alone versus marketability?
I think you can't have one without the other. Obviously, Otani is basically a once-in-his-generation player. The ability to pitch and hit and play the field at such a high level is something we really haven't seen since Babe Ruth. So the fact that he's been able to do that demonstratively well at the major league level has really translated into this phenomenon for him. But with that being said, he's a likable guy, he's good looking, he's clean cut, and he's from Japan. And Japan is a sports crazy market that essentially worships its athletes. They hold their athletes in high regard. And the fact that Otani is not just, a great player to come out of Japan, but one of the best players on the planet in general, has really elevated his status. And he's found cultural elevation, cultural success back there. He's become a global icon, a global ambassador. And when brands want to work with him, they recognize that. They recognize his value and the type of presence he can deliver. So that the talent combined with, having that market open to him has just created this phenomenon where he's earning like we've never seen before.
I think this really begs the question of what makes a player marketable, because there's a huge disparity between what the top 10 highest paid players make off the field. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So in baseball, we find that a lot of players don't exactly perform in the endorsement market the way athletes in other sports do, for a number of reasons. And part of that is baseball is much more regional compared to other sports. And also the schedule is so grueling that athletes can't offer production time, or, maybe they just don't want to do things like that for what in some cases ends up being a drop in the bucket compared to their playing salaries. Whereas in Otani's case, he has, this global appeal. It's not just, marketing him in the US, but in Japan. And he's become the premier athlete to market in Japan. So, it's super impressive for a guy like Aaron Judge or Mike Trout to earn over $4 million in endorsements here. Perhaps they could even, with a little more effort, or I shouldn't say effort, but perhaps, with a little more opportunity or a little more time, they could raise that number further. But Otani has just found a way to capitalize in ways that we just don't see out of American athletes.
And you compiled baseball's highest paid players. So I do want to dive a little bit deeper into this list. Are there any common themes or trends that you've seen?
Well, I think the Otani thing is important because his ability to lap the other earners in terms of endorsements is really one of a kind. And this has been going on for years. Last year we estimated his endorsement value was about 20 million in deals. The year before that, it was 6. So he's been steadily rising and steadily capitalizing on his ability to be marketable, ability to get deals. Other than that, it's just the common refrain is that the on-field salaries in baseball remain high. And, several of those are new this offseason. Several of those are existing deals. But, the on-field money in baseball continues to remain high.
So, Justin, when you're talking about Otani, you're talking about his on-the-field and off-the-field success, too. So when you're thinking about any other athlete in any other major league sport, does anyone come to mind that compares to him?
So I think it's hard to compare Otani to other athletes in general, just because what he's doing on the field is so unprecedented. I mean, we haven't seen it since Babe Ruth, something like 100 years ago. The ability to pitch and hit at the major league level. It's crazy. In terms of his ability to be marketable and success and stand head and shoulders above the rest of his peers in his sport, a couple names jump to mind. LeBron James obviously has been successful as an athlete, an entrepreneur, and an endorsee. When we printed the highest paid athletes list, we had him making $80 million in endorsements and other deals annually, which is way more than his playing salary. So he's one, but then you also look at, some of the other monster endorsers in the sports world, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and these are transcendent figures above the sports they play in, where they've become global stars more than they have become just athletes. Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo or LeBron James are more than soccer players or basketball players, and Shohei Otani has become more than just a baseball player.
Justin, you're using terms like transcendent figure, icon. You even compared Shohei Otani to Babe Ruth, who is the face of baseball for years and years and years. Do you think Shohei Otani is going to be that next face of baseball?
I think there's a good shot for it. I mean, obviously he has to continue to perform on the field because it all starts with his ability to do things we haven't seen before. He's had, a great big league career so far. Obviously it started out, he won Rookie of the Year, and then, he was injured for a little while, and then he came back, he won MVP in 2021, and last year he had a great year, though it was partly overshadowed by Aaron Judge and his stellar season. So I think he has to continue to perform on the field, but if he does that, there's no reason why he can't. He's proven that he could be extremely marketable. He's proven that he has a propensity to kind of take on these deals and continue to work on these things and engage these opportunities. Remember, a lot of this is about an athlete's willingness to take on these opportunities because they have a lot of things going on, whether it's their training, their own schedule, and he has a way where he's, popular enough that he commands a certain level with his deals, and also, I'm sure these brands understand what kind of time they're getting when they're dealing with him, but it's a choice in some regards too. So if he can keep doing it on the field and off the field, then MLB has a global star on their hands, and he already is a global star. So he's just got to keep it going.
Justin, you did mention Aaron Judge, so I do want to take a step back here and talk about the list as a whole. On the list, we're seeing some repeats of the same team, the Angels, the Mets, and the Yankees. So how are these organizations able to afford multiple stars?
I think it comes down to ownership and their willingness and ability to spend. Take the New York Mets, for example. They have the richest owner in baseball, the richest individual owner in baseball in Steve Cohen. And when Steve Cohen bought the team a few years ago, he's shown that he's not afraid to spend. In baseball, the way it works is there's a luxury tax. There's no salary cap per se. So you can really spend as much as you want. It's just a matter of how much of a penalty are you willing to pay. The more and more you spend, the more of a penalty you incur. And at different levels, it goes up, to different points. So Steve Cohen is willing to spend. He's willing to bring in these players at high salaries because he wants to give his team a chance to win. The Yankees have always had a reputation for being willing to spend and, make free agency splashes, trade for great players. It goes back to George Steinbrenner, and now his kids are in control of the team. And the Angels are another team owned by a billionaire owner who briefly this year wanted to sell the team, but has since ended that process. But still, in baseball, you'll find that many of the owners are part of this ultra wealthy class, and it's really up to them if they want to spend that kind of money. And baseball's in a great place right now. My colleague Mike Ozanian reported, I believe it was last week, that they recorded record revenues of $10.3 billion net of debt service. So baseball's in a great place. There's money flowing in, and these premier owners have an opportunity to spend.
And you've covered top earners in a host of other sports, including soccer, golf, and football. So how do the top earners in baseball stack up?
So generally, I guess not great in terms of endorsements, but in terms of total salary, they're pretty on par with other sports. I mean, Otani's really the only one that kind of blends both of them. I mean, Max Scherzer, who was number 2 on the list, pulled in $59.3 million in total earnings, which is an astronomical number. He's getting paid a league high salary by the Mets. He's got deferred money from the Nationals, and he's got a little endorsement money coming through too. So compared to other sports, that is a significant total. That's a lot of money. And, you look at the NBA, which blends kind of these high salaries with high endorsement figures, and soccer too. So comparatively, the top end of this list is really kind of in the mix with some of the higher ones in the other sports. And I think it's important to remember that, in sports that really pay well on the field, it's great, but it's really hard for athletes to earn endorsement money, let alone 7-figure endorsement money. So anybody who's, for the people in MLB who are doing it, it really is, an achievement. Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, they really are standing out, even though they haven't necessarily caught up to athletes in other sports yet.
And Justin, according to your reporting, baseball's 10 highest paid players are earning 15% higher than last year's record. So how are we seeing such this rise in earnings?
Well, if you remember last year, there was a work stoppage and there was kind of economic uncertainty about what was going to happen to the sport. Whenever a new collective bargaining agreement is put into place, experts have told me that spending tends to go up, and that's because the economic future of the sport becomes more stable and more into focus. So I think knowing what the CBA was going to look like gave teams a lot of confidence to kind of enter into these deals. And also, the way the market functions is, you want to be competitive, you're going to have to pay what someone thinks they're worth, or, negotiate to that price. And obviously there were a lot of marquee free agents on the market this year. There were, several really, really big contract extensions signed, showing that they don't want players to even get to that point. And obviously there's more to come.
Justin, I guess this really begs the question of what's the future looking like for MLB players? Will this trend of record high earnings continue?
I think it all goes back to Otani once again, because he will be a free agent at the end of the season, pending an extension with the Angels. We don't know exactly what's going to happen there. But he's being talked about potentially as the highest contract ever, not just highest free agent contract ever, highest contract ever. Mike Trout, who signed an extension a few years back, owns the total contract record. Mike Trout, his teammate, at $426.5 million in total contract value. Experts are saying that Otani could get over $500 million, and that would obviously blow away what's been there in the sport before that. So it's going to be really exciting to see what happens to him, and that could really dictate how spending goes from there.
Well, it's an exciting time for baseball, that's for sure. Justin Birnbaum, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Brittany.